You can find me at Bankster17. I've got Michael Gudadera with me at The Big Gouda. You can find us on YouTube. Just search my name, Doug Shane. Please make sure when you get over to YouTube, you like, share, subscribe, click the notification icon bell so you know when we have our live streams. We live stream every Friday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time at night. And then we go live on Sunday mornings before kickoff, 11:30 a.m. on the East Coast. We take you up till right about 10 minutes before kickoff. And, of course, if you're interested in Bankster DFS, you like what you hear. If you don't like what you hear, you want to hear some different Bankster voices, you can check us out, banksterdfs.com/subscribe. It is only $3.99 a week. Gets you access to all of our content, NFL, football, well, that is football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, golf, tennis, NASCAR, MMA, every sport, college sports, EuroLeague, niche, everything. We cover everything. $3.99 a week, daily articles, player pools, the best Slack chat in the business. The Slack chat alone, even for one of the channels, is worth $3.99 a week. You get all of it for $3.99 a week. You really can't get a better deal. Play one double up, play a $5 double up. You make your money back every single week, and everything else is gravy. And then you get to hang out with us because we are not just a subscriber service. I don't have members. We're a community. We have a team. We're Team Bankster. We have a team. We all get to know each other. Everyone that works at Bankster has been a subscriber, a member, part of our community. Join the team. We have a lot of great team members. Check us out. And one of those great team members, Michael Gudadera, the Big Gouda. How are you doing today, Michael? What's going on?
I'm fantastic. It's Friday. We're kicking NFL into high gear. I can't believe it's week 7 already. And yeah, the news is coming, fast and ready to go.
Today was awful. I'm trying to put my article in and for those who don't know, I do the NFL Moving the Chains. It's our main article for football. We do have a couple of different articles. We have Brian Crozier puts together an article on the contrarian plays early in the week, and then I followed up with it's mostly cash game. We do cover a lot of GPP in that as well. It's got our player pool, and I just sat modifying it. Mike, you saw in the Slack chat, I was complaining about the Slack chat every time a piece of news come in. Had to change the article. Oh, Joe Mixon's out. Well, there's my cash game. He was in my cash game lineup. Austin Hooper's out. Well, there's my cash game lineup. Emmanuel Sanders is out. Well, I just wrote about him as a nice contrarian GPP option for that game. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? It was ridiculous. So that was today's been an interesting day. So that's crazy. So hey, hello to everyone who's here. Brandon Matthews, one of our writers, stopped in to say hello, Brandon. And we're happy to have you guys. Drop questions in the chat. We'll be here to help out with that. But boy, let's get us started. I say I talk less. Sean's unable to make it for this one. He usually keeps me in check, and I'm talking already, doing a lot of talking. So let's get going. And we've got the first one on the slate, Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints. I referenced it, so let's talk it up right now. This game, I don't love this game. I'll be straight up with you. I'm not a big fan of this game. I do love Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is one of my core plays in cash this week. Did a nice big write-up on him with Michael Ness out, Emmanuel Sanders out. Carolina being really bad against opposing running backs. I don't know why you're not playing Alvin Kamara. I don't care his price. His price is actually super low. He should be in the 9K range. $7,900. Alvin Kamara, love him in this game. And I'll be playing him. The carry volume isn't there. Latavius Murray is a really interesting GPP option because of his potential to carry the football, but there's no way he doesn't see 8 to 10 targets in this game. And if Kamara's seeing 8 to 10 targets, 10 to 12 carries, goal line work, he's one of those guys that can kind of fall a little bit under that 23 to 25 touch range, and I still feel really good about using him. Extremely high touchdown volume, great inside the 5 work, and it's $7,900. I mean, it's the second cheapest he's been all year. I don't know why his price is down. Maybe the expected return of Michael Thomas threw DK off, but you're getting a steal at $7,900. Lock and load, put him in the cash lineup. There's more than enough value to make him work this week. Let's do that. I also am strongly considering Mike Davis. I wasn't high on Mike Davis to start the week, but it's simply because I think I just recency biased last week with those 3 targets helped me. But prior to that, Mike Davis has been a target monster with just a ton of targets. What's that? 25, 33 targets over 4 weeks. I mean, he's averaging 8 targets a week prior to last week. Even last week in a stinker game, you didn't lose your cash game because you had Mike Davis. You lost your cash game because you had a whole bunch of players Alexander Madison and Mike Davis combined did not help your cash games. Mike Davis, I'm willing to give another shot. He still had 20 touches last game. New Orleans is not great against running backs. And again, that target volume is there, strong cash game duration. I do think there are some GPP options in this game, though I'm not going heavily. If you really wanted to go a little contrarian in this game. Davis and someone like, sorry, I'm just trying to get to the New Orleans Saints here, just by themselves. I believe his name is Marquez Callaway. Callaway is a guy who saw a ton of snaps last week. Had 6 targets, more than Traquan Smith. Traquan Smith will be the de facto number 1 receiver, sort of. I mean, right, Jared Cook and Alvin Kamara are going to get more touches and more looks. But Callaway seems to have caught the eye of Drew Brees and only ran. No, I'm not using him in a cash game, but if you want to get a little contrarian in this game, you run Mike Davis with Callaway, or you run one of the Carolina receivers. Probably DJ Moore is the main option. But you don't have to get overly. Could go with Robbie Anderson. And by the end of the weekend, when we go live on Sunday, we'll have a better idea of who is going to be shadowed by Lattimore, if Lattimore does any shadowing in this one, or who might be affected by that. But right now, one of those two guys, whichever one's going to be the lower owned, you pair him up with Callaway, and you've got yourself a decent GPP option for this game. I'm not going heavily on that, but if you need a cheap exposure to this game, and this game intrigues you, that's a decent way to. Obviously, your chalk play is the Kamara. I don't love either quarterback very much. I'm not stacking this game heavily. I don't love either defense in this game either. I just think there will be some points. I just don't know, other than Kamara and Davis, like they're going to come from. Maybe the receivers, but not going hard. The prices are good. The prices are good on the receivers. Michael, you got anything different on this game that we need to contribute?
No, the only two things I'll add real quick are Mike Davis. I view him more as a GPP play this week. The volume's good, but I think he's more of a GPP play just because that same defense is halfway decent. And I actually really like Robbie Anderson. I think you can consider him in cash. The Saints D has 3 or more sacks in 4 of their 5 games, so that's cut back a lot on the passing yards that they allow. But if Anderson is lined up against Marshawn Lattimore this week, Lattimore actually hasn't been very good, surprisingly. He's been allowing a 79% catch rate and 1.67 yards per route covered, which is towards the top of the NFL. So Lattimore has actually been, hasn't been that great this year, except for week 1 against Mike Evans, who he always has his number. So I think you should give real strong consideration to Robbie Anderson this week as well.
And I'm not a huge cornerback matchup guy all that much, so I love when you come in with that information, because that's something that is, just that's I get that from elsewhere. But that's not been my thing, and I just didn't realize Lattimore's getting ripped that much this year. That's really interesting to see.
Yeah,
I was trying to pull up Robbie Anderson's numbers, and then I got caught up trying to send the link to our members to come in and to our community, our team, to come in here and hang out. But yeah, that time is really sweet. He's okay. The only reason, by the way, I just did want to address the Mike Evans thing, and I know I said I wouldn't ramble too much today. The Mike Evans, sorry, is I'm not loving. I've been announced injury potentially, and I'm a little concerned about Kareem Hunt. I just think that price is so good. That's the reason I'm considering him in cash. But that cash spot is still kind of open for me, and that could be very different Sunday. So it's a really good point that you made up about the run defense and the fact that Lamar is getting burned. Moving on to the next game, Mike, it wouldn't be a live stream if I didn't let you talk about your New York Jets. So what do we got, buddy? What's going on with our New York Jets? Are we doing? How do we feel about this game?
So oddly enough, this game might actually be a little more competitive than people think it can be. It's finally looking like the Jets are going to have their full complement of receivers this week. Perriman looks like he's going to be back. Denzel Mims looks like he's ready to be back, and Crowder's going to be in. Crowder popped up on the injury report on Wednesday, but he's practiced all week. It's just, I think, more some veteran rep maintenance and all that. But yeah, now with the full complement of receivers back, now they don't have to worry about guys like Jeff Smith that we've been talking about the past couple of weeks, and they don't necessarily need to feed Crowder 15 targets just to be able to move the ball down the field. And Darnold, it looks like Darnold is going to play this weekend as well. And this all kind of bodes well. Now, I'm definitely not suggesting a Jets stack here, but what
we've tried that here. It doesn't work.
But what I do think it does, I think it makes the Bills a much more viable play, because sometimes in these matchups, like we saw when the Jets played the Colts, that when teams are favored big, they sometimes just win big, and they don't really give any fantasy production because they win so easily. They don't need to rely on their stars. But this could be a game that the Jets put some potentially put some points up because the Bills defense just has not been very good. And that'll help. That'll help the case for Josh Allen. That'll help the case for Stephon Diggs. Allen has crushed the Jets in his career. I think every game that Allen has faced them, he's ran for at least 50 yards, and he's had a touchdown in multiple of those games. So we are getting a floor of anywhere from 5 to 10 points just from rushing, plus whatever Allen can do. And we've seen he's really developed his deep ball this year. Having Stephon Diggs has helped him tremendously. And with John Brown being out, I think Allen's going to focus that much more on Diggs this week. And it also opens up the option. I think everybody's going to flock to Cole Beasley after he had that touchdown on Monday night and played pretty well. But I think the guy to look at here is Gabriel Davis. The Jets slot cornerback has actually played very well this year. The Jets defense hasn't been that great. They made a couple of plays, but Brian Poole lining up in the slot has played fantastic this year. He's actually one of the highest rated. Has one of the highest cornerback ratings from Pro Football Focus, and he's only allowing a 69% catch rate. So that could actually spell some trouble for Beasley this week. So if you're looking at a stack on the Bills, I would use that second guy as Gabriel Davis. I'd stay away from Beasley. And Allen's going to make a fantastic play this week. He's a little pricey potentially for me in cash. He's definitely viable there if you want to get to him. But I think he is better left off for GPP because there's always the blowout factor, and if this game does blow out, you'll see the Bills run a lot more than originally anticipated. Because why risk Allen if you're winning easily against the Jets?
Fun fact about Gabe Davis: 100% snap count. The last time John Brown was out, he saw every snap in the game. So I love him as a GPP option. I'm with you on that with Josh Allen. Probably a little too expensive for cash, but he's definitely GPP viable. I have one quick question for you on this. Just your opinion on this. Stephon Diggs cash game, $7,000. Pretty high price on him. But I've been thinking about him as a cash game option with all these targets, and he's seeing so many targets and so many yards. Is he cash game viable this week with all the other value on the slate?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. I mean, he's gonna be lined up basically either against Pierre Desir or Lamar Jackson, the cornerback, not the quarterback, and
not the good Lamar.
Not the good Lamar. If I'm not mistaken, I think they brought Lamar Jackson off their practice squad last week, so not exactly a starting caliber in the NFL.
And are you running Crowder? Are we going back to Crowder and cash this week? I had him in my pool. I had him as a preferred cash game play. The questionable, the limited practice concerned me slightly. So I still have him as a cash game play, but not a preferred cash game play. What are your thoughts on Crowder and cash?
I think he's extremely viable. I still think the target share is going to be there. And, one of the things that we focused on this year against that Bills defense has been the slot receivers. Slot receivers have had a tremendous year against the Bills. So I see no reason not to use Crowder in cash. Like I said, it looks like he's healthy and he's going to play, in spite of limited practice throughout the week. And with the target share that he does have, I'm comfortable using him. I did have him in my initial cash lineup. With some of the news that has come out the past couple of days, I've backed off of him because I've actually had some extra money to spend, and I was more confident in some other areas. But if you use Crowder and you need that savings, if you're not using the savings somewhere else, Crowder is extremely viable. Use him confidently.
I mean, he's ripped the Bills the last 3 times they've played. And if you look at him, week 1 against the Bills, 21.5 points on volume alone. He got that extra 6 for the touchdown, which is more than 3x on this total. 10 targets a game, very viable for cash. As long as I know he's playing, I will probably move him back to a preferred play. Cool. Thank you for the insight on that. It's definitely listed as a cash game play for me. I've been wavering kind of back and forth. He will probably move into cash game viability and on the cash pool in the article. As soon as we're done with this, he will probably move. Maybe over in the next game, I'll go switch him over. As you're talking, I'll probably go do that. Next game is Detroit and Atlanta. This game has a really high total. I also think because it's the Lions, it is one of the more likely games to disappoint as well. I did write this game up as one of my 3 game stacks that I'm interested in for this week because you can't ignore it because of the game total. I do think you're safer on the Atlanta side. And I think Atlanta, we just don't get cute, right? Ridley and Jones both have their injury designations removed. They're both just phenomenal matchup against the Lions. I think if you're going to be smart about this game, and we're using it for a GPP, it's Ryan, Ridley, Jones, and you run it back with 2 Detroit playmakers. Now, here's the thing with Detroit. Detroit has 4 viable playmakers, which makes them one of the harder teams to stack because, whereas we talk about Baltimore being a great team to stack because it's Lamar Jackson, it's Marquise Brown, it's Mark Andrews. And quite honestly, I'm not even sure Marquise Brown is there. It's probably just Jackson and Andrews for me at this point. They're an easy team to stack. Detroit is one of the harder teams to stack. They're kind of like the Steelers, who we're going to talk about a little later on, being just too many options. You got Galladay. He's the obvious play, but his target share has just not been great. He's just not seeing the kind of volume I want to see out of a guy who's approaching 7K, especially in a cash game. I'm a little nervous about that. The 6, 8, and 7 targets. I mean, look at just the last game. Crowder, no less than 10 targets in any game. Stephon Diggs, he's had games of 14, 13, 16. Like, he's had tons of targets. You're not getting that out of Galladay. Is it possible Galladay gets 20 points? Yeah, I think it's more than possible. I think it's pretty likely he can get 20 points in this matchup. The Falcons can't stop anyone. And so I like him in this matchup. I also think he's going to be a little bit chalky in this matchup. And again, that price is starting to creep up. He could absolutely destroy this price in a GPP. And I think he's a real safe GPP play. But I also think that Matt Patricia talked this week about getting Marvin Jones a little more involved in the offense. Jones is not seeing nearly the target volume he saw last year, but he's still a big play guy. He's still the kind of guy that can shift the field. We've seen those big 3 touchdown games from him, which we shouldn't chase the 3 touchdown games, but in a GPP, especially when you're talking about really expensive Atlanta receivers, both Julio and Calvin are sitting over 7K. Can we afford to run back a $6,700 Kenny Galladay? Yeah, this week I think with some of the value on the slate, we probably could, but that's going to limit some of our high-end options. We can run another high-end mini stack if we went with Marvin Jones. Is that the preferred option? No, I'm not saying we should have 80% Marvin Jones in our lineup, but I do think he needs to be considered. I think TJ Hawkinson is a little overpriced at 5K. Atlanta, terrible against tight ends. They've gotten burned by just about every single tight end that they've played this year, but including last week. Let's not forget, Irv Smith had the best game of the season last week against the Atlanta Falcons. So other than Ian Thomas, every single tight end that's gone up against them has had one of their best games of the season against the Falcons. And so that means Hawkinson could be in line for a pretty big game. But again, a cash game with TJ Hawkinson this week because they see that matchup. He's done nothing to make him cash game viable. I wrote about this in the article, which I do have to go edit. I forgot about this part because I have Hawkinson as bad chalk this week because at the time Austin Hooper was playing. He's $1,000 less, and he gives you the exact same floor as TJ Hawkinson for $1,000 cheaper. He actually has more targets over the last 3 games than TJ Hawkinson, more points than TJ Hawkinson, despite the fact that Hawkinson has scored touchdowns in 2 of those games. I mean, look at this. Hawkinson has a touchdown in back-to-back games and has barely broken 20 combined points. Where's the upside with Hawkinson? I don't love him in this matchup. Who do I love for around the same price? DeAndre Swift. Give me some DeAndre Swift in this game. I love DeAndre Swift this week. I think that the shift is happening. I do think Peterson gets some carries. I don't know why there are reports right now out there that the Lions are looking at Alex Collins. Maybe they just need a third running back and they're not happy with Kerryon Johnson. But this is DeAndre Swift's backfield, or at least it should be. 14 carries last week. Tons of yards. Yeah, I get it. The Jaguars are one of the worst teams against running backs in the league. Fine. Fair enough. So is Atlanta. Atlanta's terrible against running backs. They give up a ton of receptions. That's why that Mike Davis game last week was so surprising, because the Falcons for 5 years running have given up the most points to backs out of the backfield in the receiving game in the NFL every year. The one thing DeAndre Swift does better than anyone else on the team is catch passes out of the backfield. 4 targets or more in every single game. Would have had another touchdown if he'd caught that touchdown pass in the week 1 that he dropped. He's learned from that. But look, the guy's been over double points every single week but 1 this year. He's a better player than TJ Hawkinson with a far higher upside. So if we're stacking this game and you do want to go Galladay and you want to save some money and you're not feeling Marvin Jones, you should be stacking him with DeAndre Swift. I do think even DeAndre Swift, before the value came out with Giovanni Bernard, Jamal Williams, and some of the other guys at the low end, he was borderline cash game play for me this week. I really considered him in cash games. I moved off of that simply because there's more value. Like, I'd rather spend $700-800 less to get Giovanni Bernard, or $1,000 almost less for Giovanni Bernard at this point. But Swift is there. He's there as a GPP play, and I love him. If you want to get a little contrarian, Detroit, if you see that there, has given up the most points to running backs this year. It worked with Todd Gurley 2 weeks ago when they played Carolina. When they played Carolina, it worked. 28 points as a contrarian play was on the passing game. That's pretty good. Todd Gurley can do he can play well as a contrarian play. Also, last week, 20 carries, 3 receptions. Didn't do much with them, but the Falcons want to give him the football. And when they're doing well and they're winning, and I think they win this game, they're favored in this game. Todd Gurley gets touches, so he's a guy at 6K who could be a really nice contrarian option. If, let's say, you're stacking the Pittsburgh game or you're stacking the Green Bay game, and you want an interesting secondary stack with some contrarian plays in there, I actually like Todd Gurley, Marvin Jones as a stack in that game. In this game, that'll cost you 10K. Has some upside, and that's pretty good. And if it sounds like I lost my train of thought, it's because I referenced Mike Davis last week against the Falcons. He didn't play the Falcons last week. Mike Davis had a bad game in a different game last week, and it stuck with me, and I hate misrepresenting things. So that was my bad. He did great. Yeah, he did great against Atlanta 2 weeks ago. More to the point that DeAndre Swift should have a great game because Mike Davis had a good game 2 weeks ago. Everyone has a good game against the Falcons. It was Madison who played poorly against the Falcons last week. I think DeAndre Swift is a bigger part of this offense and is more talented than Madison. I feel very safe with DeAndre Swift in this game. Michael, do you have anything different for this game?
No, I agree with you there. Swift is tempting, but people don't go too overboard with it because it looks like it's still going to be a frustrating backfield. And Gurley, I think, is a nice contrarian piece to have in here. He's going to score touchdowns. They want to get him the ball, and the Lions' defense is just bad. So he could be a nice contrarian way to get exposure to this game. Yeah,
I love that. I love that idea. Moving on to the Cleveland-Cincinnati game. Ooh, I love this game. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this game if you and I are on the same page with this game. What are your feelings on this game? I've been partial to Cincinnati a lot this year, so I'm curious to see where you are with this game.
Yeah, so earlier in the week, I know we had talked a little bit about cash lineups and cash builds, kind of like our early week thought process. And you were really on Joe Mixon, and I was really on Tyler Boyd. And I loved the Mixon play, but I was finding it hard to have a lot of those higher end running backs and finding the value receivers from that point. So I kind of went a little bit of a different route. But now we get the bomb dropped after 3 days of no practice that Joe Mixon is not playing. So now that basically makes Gio Bernard an auto lock. This is going to be the first week this year where we have that under 5K running back that's going to be anywhere from 40 to 60% owned. He's probably going to be 60% owned in cash. There's no way that people are going to play him in this matchup. It's a strong matchup, and frankly, he doesn't need to do much. Even with Mixon playing, aside from the Jacksonville game, he's gotten 2 or more targets in every game this year. So they've been using him in the past game. We know they will. And he hasn't been running the ball all that much, but the past 2 years when Mixon has been out and Gio has been in there, he steps in beautifully. He's going to play at least 60 to 70% of the targets here. And I don't think they're going to give the ball to anybody else in this backfield. Samaje Perine is he's been traveled to so many teams over the years. He's just a roster filler. And you got the running back Williams, but I'll be honest, I don't know much about him, but he was a healthy scratch the first 6 games of the year. This is gonna be his first one that he's active. So again, I don't think they think much of him that they've had Perine active ahead of Williams. So this is gonna be a Gio game. I think for cash, you look at Gio and you move on. On a GPP side, I'm not really crazy enough for anybody on Cleveland in cash games. Kareem Hunt you can definitely use, but at his price range, there's a couple of other running backs that I do prefer, especially higher. Like, if I'm paying the 6,800, well, I'm going the extra 400. I'm using Aaron Jones. There's no way that I'm going down from Jones to Hunt now.
He plays. If Aaron Jones plays.
If he plays, then that becomes another big discussion too on which
will this even matter by Kickoff podcast? Will this even matter by Kickoff?
But I think Hunt's going to be a great GPP play because if we remember on week 2, I believe it was week 2. It was either week 2 or week 3. Cleveland had a tremendous running day against this Bengals defense. Hunt and Chubb both had very big games. So Hunt should have a big day, but again, it's just that price for a cash that kind of takes me off a little bit, just because what the other options are there. And then the passing attacks. I mean, how can you not like Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow has been a volume machine this year. His price is down a little bit this week, which I'm really surprised to see him at only 5,500. He had been over, in the high fives or even over 6,000 for a while. Went down to 5,400 in a tough matchup last week, and now in a much easier matchup and at home at 5,500. It's a very nice GPP play, and with Tyler Boyd and T Higgins just having a pretty solid start to the year, and Burrow still is number one in the NFL in dropbacks. They've been trailing, their defense has been bad, and Burrow has needed to throw the ball. So, I think this is a great angle to get some GPP exposure. Probably not that much exposure on this Bengals passing game, and I think it's it's a great GPP pivot from Gio Bernard, who's going to be so highly owned that you get the other side of it in case the Browns run defense steps up or the Browns get a big lead. Bernard's not going to be as involved. He may not have as many touches as anticipated.
I wrote about Giovanni Bernard recently today. He is not bad chalk. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think you have to spend down at running back in cash. I think you can. I think you will. I think he's currently in my cash lineup, Giovanni Bernard. But I just don't think you have to. So don't feel like, especially at 60. So 60% ownership. Like we put him in there. If he has a great game, great. We have a great game along with everyone else. If he has a terrible game, we're right there with everyone else. We're still at 60% if he's in that range. It doesn't really hurt us. And you can do a lot of cool things with the rest of your lineup. Just make sure you do the right things. But if you feel you need to get 3 strong running backs, let's say Aaron Jones is playing and you're loving James Conner, who I know Michael tends to love all the time. So I feel it's a safe name to throw out there. You can fit in James Conner. You can fit in James Conner with Aaron Jones, with Alvin Kamara, and you can make a cash game lineup work, especially if you use Joe Burrow as your cash quarterback. He is not currently my cash game quarterback. He is my second pick for cash game quarterback. Kyler Murray is my cash game quarterback. But Burrow, I think, is a great look. I put it on the screen. He's grossly mispriced this week. I just think the upside is there. He runs a little bit. It's a great matchup for him. I also happen to like Bengals +3 in the money line. But yeah, I like the Bengals, and I love T. Higgins this week. Even when AJ Green came back last week, and by came back I mean had a little bit of life to his game, T. Higgins was still getting 8 targets. That's now 5 straight weeks of a great target volume, 6, 9, 7, 8, 8. He's very cash game viable for me. I know this will probably get me fired from my own company, but I like him better than I like Tyler Boyd this week. I'm just a T. Higgins guy, I guess. I know Sean and Michael may never talk to me again, or they might not talk to me till the live stream on Sunday at 11:30 East, by the way. But I like Higgins better than Boyd. I think both are good plays. Boy, 5,400 for Boyd is really good, though. I just think Higgins is so safe. I love him. And a name I just want to throw out there, I put it in this morning as a really deep dart right here. Kind of like Rashard Higgins. He's a real high upside guy, decent deep threat. Caught a touchdown each of the last 2 weeks. Seeing a little bit of volume. No cash game viability. It shouldn't have. If you have 150 lineups, put him in one. But he's my victory lap guy this week. He was good a couple of years back, and he fell out of favor with the team. And he seems to be getting back in with the team. He's got a little more experience than you probably realize. And at 3K, it's one 50-yard bomb. It's all it takes to hit value. He's hit value to the last 2 weeks. He had the touchdown to get there. I mean, he's a dart throw, but he's a dart throw that I can get behind a little bit if you want to get super duper contrarian with this game. If you want to run back in this game, you don't want to pay $6,000 or $6,800. He's a guy. Oh, also the Harrison Bryant. Austin Hooper's ruled out. Harrison Bryant. The team loves Harrison Bryant. Like Kevin Stefanski loves Harrison Bryant. He's one of the best tight ends in college football last year. He's seen some targets this year, not a ton, but with Hooper in the game, he's still seen more targets in all but one game this year. He's just I think he can walk right into that Hooper role. I think he's going to see targets in this game. Cincinnati's not great against the tight end. This is another guy. You want to get real crazy? You go Burrow, Gio, Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins, and you run it back with Higgins and Bryant, I mean, that's pretty dumb. That's pretty Doug level stupid. And I've done some, but you can pay up pretty much anything you want. You can go Devontae Adams, you can go Will Fuller, you can go high end, you could go DK Metcalf. I mean, that's I just think that's the way to go. I do currently, again, we do full disclosure here. We're completely transparent. Harrison Bryant's currently my top cash game tight end, given the matchup and the price. Wish I had that gusto last week with Irv Smith when he was 2,500. I'll make that mistake this week. I love me some Bryant at $2,500. Moving on to the Green Bay Houston game. This is another super high end game. I don't think this one disappoints. We do have some questions here with the Packers, with the running back position. Aaron Jones is questionable. I hate questionable. I wish he was just ruled out so we could easily move into Jamal Williams. I'd use him in a GPP. I don't think Jamal Williams is a guy I'd use in cash because I think the team wants to see what A.J. Dillon can do. Matt LaFleur came out today and said he believes A.J. Dillon can do whatever Aaron Jones can do, which is, I don't believe it. They're completely different players. I think Williams would do the receiving end of it and Dillon would do the running end of it. I do think he's a big dude who could run up the middle. He's a great goal line back. If Aaron Jones doesn't play, I do have some concerns about the usage for Jamal Williams with A.J. Dillon there. I also think, I just think it's a little bit dangerous of a position, but that just means if with Aaron Jones being questionable, I'm just pretty much all in on Devontae Adams and cash. If I could get to Adams and Stephon Diggs in the lineup, I'll be a very happy camper. I know it's tough to do, right? But you get your 25 targets. You want 25 targets, 25 to 28 targets out of your receivers. You can get them just with Adams and Diggs combined, and then you go and value with an Adam Humphries or a Tim Patrick, who I don't love as much with KJ Hamler coming back. But there are options, even T. Higgins at 5,300. Because you've got, or you use a Giovanni Bernard, like there are options that can get you to two high-end receivers. Adams is just, Rodgers just looks, I actually think the team plays worse when Adams is in because Rodgers locks in on him so much. He does not spread the football around, and the team's better when he spreads the football around. And if Aaron Jones is out, it's going to be all Devontae Adams. Okay, I'm okay with that. I'll just put him in the cash game lineup, call it a day. Obviously, if I'm GPP stacking, he's there. Robert Tunyon rhymes with Funyon. Questionable. I think he's going to be okay to play. If he doesn't play, might it be Sternberger time? I don't know. Not taking a chance other than the GPP, only if Tunyon's out. Love some Darren Fells this week. This is my channeling of Sean for the moment. We love Houston ends. Houston tight ends just get volume. Jordan Akins is still not going to play. Fells had 7 targets last. Green Bay, not great in the pass defense area. Boy, give me Fells. Great in the red zone. He can take a big play, too. I put this in the article, but, 44 and 35 for his long catches the last couple weeks, like big man Campbell. And Deshaun Watson, when he rolls out of the pocket and drills in towards him, always seems to find Fells running down the sideline or wide open in the middle of the field, and he just rumbles for 30, 40 yards. This happens a lot. It happened last year as well. Happened with Akins, too. As long as Akins is out, I'm great with Darren Fells. I love him. I actually think at $4,100, if you were using Austin Hooper at tight end in cash, and you want to pivot and you have the $100, Darren Fells for me is fine in cash games. Player I love this week. I'm a little down on Fuller, especially if he's going to see Jair Alexander. Love some Brandon Cooks this week. Brandon Cooks benefited so much from Bill O'Brien being gone. 2 weeks, 21 targets, 2 touchdowns, 229 yards, 20 points each week, still sitting at $5,200. He's a good one. Like, this guy is good. He can take a deep pass, but you have to remember, too, in college, he had a fairly low ADOT on a lot of his passes. He's really good across the middle. He's a great short depth receiver. And Kevin King's probably not playing in this game, so he's going against someone who's not Kevin King. Like, the matchup is there for Brandon Cooks to absolutely smash this game. He's currently in my cash game lineup, along with Devontae Adams, and he will be in any GPP I run for this game, whether it's with Houston dominated or Green Bay dominated. And quite honestly, I think of Brandon Cooks is a one-off, or as individual play is someone that I'm more than happy to roll with this week. I don't think I'm alone on Brandon Cooks Island this week like I have been in the past, but at $5,200, he's too damn cheap, and so I'm going to roll him quite a bit this week. I don't love his Valdez-Scantling. I could see the argument to be there with Aaron Jones out that maybe Aaron Rodgers will start his way if Aaron Jones is out, but he didn't do anything for me. He hasn't done anything this year. And so I'm not a big fan. I know you tend to like Mike, so maybe you see this game a little bit differently from for me. I do prefer stacking on the Houston side. I'd rather have Deshaun Watson than Aaron Rodgers in this game. What are your thoughts on this, Michael?
Yeah, so I'm kind of on the same page. I think Fells is going to be another excellent play this week with Akins out, and I do believe, as much as I most weeks really like Will Fuller, just because he's getting that volume. He's really taken over the number one with Hopkins gone, and Watson's been actually fantastic this year. But Jair Alexander, the Packers' number one corner, has been pretty shut down this year. Point out the Minnesota game, but Thielen did most of his damage from the slot, and when he was matched up against Alexander shut him down pretty well. So at that high price tag with Fuller at 6,800, I'm kind of off of him this week, but I do think this is going to be, there should be a lot of points in this game, but it could also be, just the way that these teams are made up, that the points come from like those weird areas, that it might even be potentially a week that you use the quarterbacks maybe even naked. If you're using Aaron Rodgers, you almost have to have Devontae Adams in him on a stack, especially if Aaron Jones is out. We'll see how Jones' injury progresses, but it's a game 2 stack. I'm not going too crazy on it, just because I think it's going to be one of those weird ones where Rodgers is throwing touchdowns to the backup tight end, things like that.
Sternberger, baby. I don't think Michael and I are saying, listen, if you're running 50 lineups, Will Fuller should be in your player. Just we would be underweight on the field to what we expect Will Fuller to be. Like, we're not running 20% Will Fuller. I think that's what we're doing. That's the way we feel. Michael, I'm very excited to give you this game because I know there is a player on the Washington football team that you have talked about every single week who has just a prime matchup this week. And maybe you're not going to talk about it, but I am so interested to hear what you have about this Dallas-Washington game. It should be a fun.
100% J.D. McKissick, right? Is that who you're referring to?
Yeah. You love yourself to McKissick. Listen, dude, he's getting way too many touches for who he is. For being J.D. McKissick,
I know.
The amount of touches that we're getting out of this dude, like 14 touches last week. Are you kidding me? 10 points a week, though, each of the last 3 weeks. But I don't think that's the running back you personally like on the Washington football team.
I don't. I love Antonio Gibson. I've been preaching him every week, and this is shaping up nicely. That I think he actually goes under owned. He's definitely. I think he's catch viable again because he's getting the work. The production hasn't been there yet, but I still think he's catch viable. I'm probably not going to end up using him because I do prefer Gio to him in that price range for a cash game play. But I think that's where the leverage comes in a tournament build. Everybody's going to be flocking to Giovanni Bernard. They're going to be locking him in at 4,600, and Gibson's going to be the nice GPP pivot there. It's always when you're building tournament lineups, you always want to get the most amount of touches for your money, and in that area, when you can get leverage on the field on a value guy who's not really going to be used, it's a massive play. Even looking a couple $100 above where Gibson is, you got David Johnson at 5,300, who's got one of the worst run defenses in the league with Green Bay. And then you got Swift at 5,400 coming off that big game last week, and you're going to have a lot of recency bias there with him playing Atlanta. And as I just mentioned, you're going to have Gio Bernard, at 4,500, that people are going to be, not even thinking twice about and locking him in.
And don't forget the Chargers backfield. The Chargers backfield is going to be very popular.
They're right there too. Yep, absolutely. So with that, Gibson becomes a massive play there, and if they start, using him more and more like they should be, and giving less to McKissick, this could be a smash spot, and this guy can easily go 4 to 5x. He can take one. He's an 80-yard touchdown waiting to happen. It's just, they got to get him in the right situation and the right, the right plays. And, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I don't have to mention him, but, I got to do my due diligence here. Terry McLaurin. McLaurin has just been an absolute monster, target monster. His lowest amount of targets this year has been 7. That was opening day against Philly, and then 2 weeks ago against the Rams. When he's battling Jalen Ramsey, and for his price against a Dallas secondary that I don't think could cover me and you. McLaurin's going to get over 10 targets yet again, and this guy could be 100 yards and 2 touchdowns where all is said and done. And he is going to be very chalky, especially at his price, and for good reason. But you can't forget about him. You got to have him in there. You got to be using him. And then you're looking at the other side of the ball with Dallas, and I think it's the same cast of characters. On the offense, you're looking Cooper, Lamb, and Zeke, and Andy Dalton. He's a decent mid-range play. I think that last week was a little bit of an anomaly. This Dallas defense not good. They're going to put up, they're going to allow tons of points. Even to Washington, I think can give up 21 to 28 points. So Dallas is going to need to be throwing the ball, and they're going to have tons of offensive plays. Their offense didn't really change. Just Dalton didn't play very well last week. But I'm going to go historically on that one and just say Dalton didn't play well last week because he's never played well in a primetime game in his career. And the lights are always too big for him. The only time he played well in a primetime game really was the Rose Bowl when he was in college. So other than that, he's never come through in a big situation. He's constantly losing in the playoffs when he gets in, and those Monday and Sunday night games, he disappears. He looks like he's a true backup quarterback. So I think Dalton could be a little on their own this week. So that actually, believe it or not, could be a decent leverage spot for this Cowboys offense.
The Washington football team have allowed the most points to second most points to opposing tight end. I do like Dalton Schultz, borderline cash game play for me. He gets targets. He's going to see 5+ targets. Has seen 5+ targets in every but 2. The one game Blake Jarwin was still part of the offense. The other one was against the Giants, and that was just not that was the game that Dak got hurt in. So that game doesn't count. The problem here is I just don't think Cowboys offense is very good. I mean, which is why Dalton Schultz is not in my cash game lineup currently, even though he's cash game viable. That offensive line, it's not the offense isn't good. They have tons of skilled players. That offensive line is destroyed. It doesn't look like Frederick's going to play, and Smith is out. And the whole offensive line is destroyed. And the one area that the Washington football team is strong, defensive front seven, they've struggled the last couple of weeks. They've only gotten 1 sack each of the last 3 weeks, but they've also they didn't give up a ton of yards. Obviously, the Giants over. They get a couple of points a week and the game's in Washington for whatever that's worth in this new era of COVID football. But I can't feel comfortable playing Dallas this week. This is, I guess, my Doug rant of I don't know why we're going to do this. Like I really want to play Zeke. Like I really think that Zeke should see some volume, but the fumble issues, and I do think that's a thing, especially against a powerful front seven with a terrible offensive line. And I love CeeDee Lamb. Like I love CeeDee Lamb, but price is creeping up. I just don't. I think Washington wins this football game. I love Gibson. Can't put him in my cash lineup because I'm not stacking football team players. Not doing that. Sorry, slip on my bad. McLaurin was the second name I clicked into cash games. It was Alvin Kamara, Terry McLaurin. Those were the 2 guys that the Dallas defense is god awful. And so I've got to get McLaurin in that lineup. They've been actually really bad against running backs, where Gibson might actually be the better play. I just think we'll see that target volume with McLaurin. But I just can't. I have to disagree slightly. And I know you're not saying go play Dallas. Like you just got an inkling that maybe they're worth the shot. Is a long shot GPP maybe. I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. I just don't have faith in them. Now, a game I have faith in. I love this Pittsburgh Tennessee. There's a lot of decent games on this slate. Not a lot in the late window actually, but boy, there's this early window to really like. This Tennessee Pittsburgh game is really going to be a strong game. There are some concerns for me. Ben Roethlisberger is kind of like Drew Brees, the AFC version of Drew Brees, where he's really good at home and he can play pretty poorly in his career on the road. He only played 1 road game so far this year. Wasn't terrible. Wasn't great. Wasn't terrible. They didn't. Was that the game? Was that the Cleveland game? No, that was the Giants game. That was week 1. So
week 1, yeah,
pretty wrapped up. So it's kind of tough to bring into what he's done there. But historically, Ben Roethlisberger in good matchups struggles in road games. And again, good era might be a little bit different. And boy, the Steelers have weapons, don't they? Claypool and Juju and Deontay and James Washington and James Conner and Eric Ebron. They almost have too many guys to stack. So I do think that Pittsburgh, like one of my GPP lines this week, does have the Steelers as the main lineup with Ben. And I went Claypool for the upside and Deontay Johnson because it $4,200 for his target volume is ridiculous. Now the offense changed a little bit, like, and I wrote in the article like what's really changed. Well, and that's a little unfair because Claypool has emerged a little bit, but he emerged when Deontay Johnson got hurt. But prior to that, Deontay Johnson 23 targets in 2 weeks. Ben clearly favored Deontay Johnson. They say he's got a little Antonio Brown in him, the way that he plays his game. And he really does. He can get open. He plays well in the open field. He's not necessarily a speed guy, but he's shifty and he can make a contested catch. And at $4,200, it's really hard to pass up on him. Just like last week and the week before, Juju Smith-Schuster is going to carry 0 ownership in this game. People are so down on him, but he's still good. He's young. He's good. If you really want to get leverage on the field, he's the leverage play. I don't know if I can do it, especially considering if you want leverage play, you've got James Washington in this game who sees as many snaps as just about anyone in the receiving crew, tons of targets, 5 in 3 of the last 4 games. Ben seemed to trust him. They on the field a lot, but again, Deontay Johnson wasn't there. We don't know what this offense is going to look like with the emergence of Deontay Johnson or the emergence of Chase Claypool. Deontay Johnson emerging at the beginning of the year. Could Juju be a possible trade candidate even? Who knows? But again, you get some leverage. The other leverage play, and I like to call this kind of the Michael special, because I found that Michael's really smart when it comes to leverage plays. When they want to stack the passing game, he tells you to take the running back. That's worked a lot for the Big Gouda this year, and it works in this game as well. James Conner, a Mike's is, and I love James as well. Probably won't count ownership because people will focus on the passing game. Dude scored a touchdown in the last 4 weeks. He gets 18 to 20 touches a week. He's going to get you 20 points just about every week. He's always on the field, always playing within the 5-yard line. It's spelled occasionally, but it's never for significant touches or yards. He gets his. Really good leverage play. On the other side, you've got the Titans. I don't know why, but I can't ever seem to click Ryan Tannehill's name when I'm seeing Titans. I always go the Jonnu Smith, Derrick Henry route. I always focus on the running game, but I mean the volume's kind of there, and dude has 26 and 3 of the last 4 games. And that's with Derrick Henry having good games. This is the few teams, one of the only teams I can think of, where you can stack a quarterback, running back, and receiver when the running back is not a big pass-catching threat. Yeah, I know he had the 53-yard reception last week. He had 2 catches for 52 yards with a 53-yard reception. That tells you what we need to know about Derrick Henry. He'll catch an occasional pass and do something with it. He's just not a pass-catching threat, and you want correlation. You want a quarterback that's going to throw to a running back. If you put the running back in the game, like Breeze and Kamara would be a great thing. Stafford and DeAndre Swift would work because they catch a lot of passes. This is one of the only teams where I can take a quarterback and a running back who he doesn't throw passes to because Derrick Henry is just locked in on his volume. He's getting inside the 5 touches, but Tannehill throws enough that you can make Tannehill viable. A.J. Brown's clearly the guy on this team who's going to get the quality touches, and I think Corey Davis coming back helps him, not hurts him. It draws a little bit of attention to the other side of the field. He's not been a big yardage guy this year, but he's a strong guy, A.J. Brown. He's going to see the targets. He's going to get you about 5 catches. If he gets in the end zone, he's going to crush value. He's up a little bit, which I don't love, but $6,300 is still reasonable for A.J. Brown. Corey Davis being back may hurt Adam Humphries, but even when Corey Davis was playing, Adam Humphries got his. He's a guy, especially if Jonnu Smith for some reason ends up not playing, though he's off the injury report, so he should be okay. But he's had 6 targets in every game this year. He's a less popular Cole Beasley type. Everyone knows Cole Beasley. People don't talk Adam Humphries. He does the same thing. Cash game viable for sure. The GPP, if you want to use them. Jonnu, GPP option, price is down a little bit, maybe. I was kind of out so we get some Ferguson love this week, but that's not going to happen. I like the Pittsburgh end of this game, and I don't mind bringing it back with A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry. But if you go the Tennessee route, I say you put Tannehill in there with Henry and Brown, and you run it back with a couple of those Pittsburgh receivers. Again, I'm looking at Johnson and Claypool for that upside and the price point. But if you really want to get contrarian and you really want to take a real YOLO shot at this game, you run Juju out there and give him one more chance and see what he can do. The talent is there. The matchup is there. The price is surely there. Might be worth a look. Mike, how do you feel about this game?
Yeah, so I love you mentioning the contrarian play with Connor and getting that leverage part. Of course, the week that you say it is the week that I don't like it. So
that sounds about right.
So I found something a couple of weeks ago actually on Honor, and historically, and just it works actually pretty well with Pittsburgh running backs in general, but especially with James Conner. The weeks that the Steelers are not favored and don't win the game, Connor tends to get 12 fantasy points or less. And if you're, to me, he's not cash viable this week. He definitely, again, has that GPP leverage. I just don't like it. This is going to be a very fast-paced game. These two teams actually are two of the fastest-paced teams in the NFL. And I'm just going to put it up here, but I believe that for this week, this game is either number 2 or number 3 in predicted pace, and that bodes very, very well for the passing games. And when we count that the Steelers, even though their pass defense has been a little suspect this year, more so than recently, their run defense has been one of the tops in the NFL. So if they're taking Derrick Henry out of the equation, Tannehill's going to be passing, sitting back there passing all day. And if that is the case, the Steelers are probably going to have to pass it a lot as well. And I think it's ways that Connor gets phased out of this game pretty easily. Now, he does catch passes, so he's still going to be out there. But if the Steelers are throwing a ton, and we have seen, there are a couple times a year where the Steelers just focus on passing, and Ben's back there throwing it 45, 50 times a game. I think this could be one of those games, and I think this is going to be a really, really high-paced game. And you're going to want, GPP, you're going to want exposure in this passing game and finding the right players. Juju will be a little, is definitely going to be very low owned and contrarian. And I'm starting just to see that Juju is looking like the odd man out here. And, Deontay Johnson is really coming on as the number one receiver there. Unfortunately, he's, been hurting out the past couple of weeks. But, like you mentioned, Doug, when he's in there, he's been the clear alpha dog at receiver. And I truly believe that's going to continue because he practiced Wednesday for the first time all year. And so that bodes really well to show that he's actually, fully healthy and he's going to be ready to go. This is going to be, probably, believe it or not, probably one of my favorite passing game stacks of the week.
I like I said, one of mine is this Pittsburgh offense, and I like them. I like this game a lot. I think this game's going to be, and I think it could go a little bit lower owned with some of the others on this slate. I think this will be a sneaky one, especially with Seattle, Arizona staying slate. I think that helps. I think people are going to want the late hammer. And while we love the late game, this might be a week to try to take advantage of the fact that these other late games, the 4:00 games, aren't great. So maybe we take advantage of earlier games like this Pittsburgh, Tennessee game, Green Bay, Houston, Cleveland, Cincy, Detroit, Atlanta. A lot of good games early in the day. Maybe we get some lower ownership on that. New game moved to the slate. Tampa Bay, Las Vegas. I don't think the game's going to end up playing on the slate. I do think it gets moved to Monday, but I'm not 100% sure they're going to remove it from the slate. It's going to go on with the slate. So we should probably talk about it. How do you feel about this game, Michael? I know it was added to the slate late, but I'm sure you have thoughts on this game.
I do, of course I do. Come on. So I'll make it pretty easy on the Raiders end. I'm not really feeling much on this Raiders offense this week. The Buccaneers have one of the top run defenses in the NFL, and as much as the Raiders love to run Josh Jacobs, he doesn't really catch passes. So there's just I just don't see myself using Jacobs in any capacity, even as a contrarian play this week. I just don't see how he gets anything done against the Buccaneers. And by the way,
entire offensive line on COVID,
their entire offensive line might be out this week. So that does not bode well against a team that has a great pass rush and a great run defense. And then on the other side, on the Tampa Bay side, well, then you got to look at. I love everybody on the Tampa Bay offense, but what is this game really going to shape up as? What's the story going to be with this game? Is Tampa going to control it? Is their defense going to dominate, which makes for a potential big day for Ronald Jones, but with Leonard Fournette back and healthy, and he's been, a full participant in practice this week, what does that do to Ronald Jones? Is Jones still going to get, 15 to 20 carries and 3 to 5 targets, or is he going to be in a backfield maybe with Fournette being back? That really worries me. I don't know what they may do. There's a reason why they went out and signed Leonard Fournette. I don't know if they had full faith and confidence in Ronald Jones. Jones has played very well, much, much better than I ever imagined he would. So I've been very wrong on Jones, and I'm free to admit it. But again, when there's a situation like this where a guy coming back that they made a point to sign late in the offseason after he got released, that brings up some flags, and we haven't had a situation yet where Fournette was healthy and both these guys were healthy and playing. So, what is this really going to look like? And on the passing end, this pass game is viable if the Raiders can put up some points. I don't know if they will. I don't necessarily see that this week. If you're going with the receiver, the choice is Chris Godwin over Mike Evans. We've seen now every game that they've played this year that they've, again, both been healthy and played. Evans is a ghost, and Brady is going after Chris Godwin. Godwin is the clear number one receiver there, and Evans you just look away from, and don't look now either. But who's starting to come on is Rob Gronkowski. This guy was out of football for a year. He had a slow start to the year, but the past 2 games he has 8 and 6 targets, and 3 out of the past 4 games he's got 6 targets, and he's starting to put up numbers, and he's still only priced at 4,600, and even after last week going 5 for 78 and a touchdown. So I think Gronk is a strong consideration at a position of tight end where we've gotten nothing really this year outside of Kelsey and Kittle, and occasionally Mark Andrews. So I think Gronk is a very, very strong consideration at tight end this week for tournament purposes. I wouldn't touch him in cash because this game can get out of hand very, very fast. But I do think that this game is going to be extremely low owned. So if you go against the Ronald Jones chalk because the Raiders' defense, run defense, is not very good. A stack of Brady, Godwin, and Gronkowski could be some big leverage against the field, and they very well could put up points, even if it's only a half and they're blowing the Raiders out.
I love Ronald Jones this week. I do. I love Ronald Jones. I don't believe in Fournette in this game. It's not that I don't believe in Leonard Fournette. I like Leonard Fournette. I don't believe that Bruce Arians believes in Leonard Fournette. And so I'm pretty good with Ronald Jones as a cash game play if this game plays, and we'll know that by kickoff. Not my highest end cash game play, but I do think he's cash game viable. I did pull him off the preferred list. He was in my cash game lineup for a while. I think you want to – the only 2 players I touch in this game are the Bucs defense. That's not true. You've kind of convinced me on Gronkowski as a GPP type option. Listen, you want to get a little freaky with this game. You throw these 3 guys out there, and then you stack a different game. I don't think the Raiders are viable at all. No. I'm not touching them. So, that's about where I'm at in this game. I'm going to let you talk about the San Francisco-New England game. What do we not like?
So, San Francisco-New England. Nothing.
Cool. I literally am good moving on to the next game.
Yeah.
Jared McKinnon is bad chalk this week. They're going to get touches to other people. There's nothing about this game that's worth playing.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could say about McKinnon, if you do want to use him even in a GPP, keep an eye on Jeff Wilson, because if Jeff Wilson is out, I don't know how much they may give the ball to JaMychal Hasty. I don't know if they'll trust him or what they may do. So, if Wilson's out, maybe you do use McKinnon because he's going to be the only one kind of getting – definitely not in cash. No, I'm just talking only strictly tournament. I don't think anybody in this game you can even consider in cash.
Other
than that,
I think Debo and I some runs. Like, that's what this team does. Look, $5,800 brought it up before, and so I'm just going to use your words with you on this one. Use Antonio Gibson for $800 less. I'd much rather use Gibson in this matchup. I'd rather use DeAndre Swift. I'd rather go Edwards-Helaire. I know Le'Veon Bell's coming back, but Edwards-Helaire, even for like, it's still a safer play for $100 more or for $300 more. Like, there's no one I like in this game. This is the game. Why are we touching it? So let's move on to the next game. Let's talk about Kansas City, Denver. Speaking of Edwards-Helaire, are we Le'Veon Bell? Not really.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, I want to see it happen. I'm not putting Edwards-Helaire in cash ever again after last week. But I do feel like there is, there's of course a time when I'll use him again in cash. But I do think that Le'Veon Bell should see some work. But I don't know why they drafted this kid in the first round if they're not going to give him the touches. I think he makes a nice contrarian option in a GPP. That's for sure. Because I think people are going to be scared off of him. And I think in this game you're going to look at obviously Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill. Sammy Watkins isn't playing, so people may go back to Mecole Hardman after his stinker last week. I do think Byron Pringle makes for an interesting punt. Demarcus Robinson doesn't seem, but right, like just go with the better. If you want to go contrarian in this game, you don't have to go to the Byron Pringles, Demarcus Robinsons. Just play CEH in this game if you want to be. Mahomes is fine. Mahomes actually, I couldn't believe this. He has more points through 5 games or 6 games, however many games they played this year, than he did 2 years ago when he put up all those points. Like, he's been ridiculously good this year, Patrick Mahomes. He's a little pricey, but for GPP, I don't care if he's pricey. I'll use him. Tyreek Hill is very not pricey. He had a pretty rough week, but Tyreek Hill can break a slate. And at $6,400, like, that's stupid low. That is stupid low for Tyreek Hill. I almost thought about him as a cash game option. It just goes against my. I will never use Tyreek Hill, but that price is stupid low. He's cash game viable, folks. Like, he is cash game viable. But you want to get contrarian. Just play CEH in this game. He's contrarian. I did like Tim Patrick for a while. I thought Tim Patrick was a really strong play. Had put up 3 straight games of double-digit fantasy points. 14 or more, actually. 15 targets last 2 weeks, 100 yards last 2 weeks. Drew Lock seems to like him, except KJ Hamler's coming back. And KJ Hamler was seeing targets prior to that. When Hamler was healthy, Tim Patrick getting the targets. Prior to when Hamler was playing, he got in weeks 2 and 3. And what did Tim Patrick get in weeks 2 and 3? I bet you it wasn't 12 targets. I didn't realize Hamler was playing until a little bit before he came on, so I don't have this information here. Targets. So, but it's surely, like, he's okay 4 or 5 targets, but he wasn't getting 8 and 7 targets. He wasn't putting up big points, and he put up those 4 for 43 after Hamler got hurt. So Hamler was the guy, and I'm not saying Hamler will be the guy. I'm just saying Tim Patrick was cash game lineup, was borderline of one of my core cash plays. He has moved out of my cash game consideration. He's moved out of GPP consideration for me. I want to see how they use this offense a little bit more. And I don't think we need Tim Patrick. If you want to spend $4,600 on a receiver, go use Adam Humphries. Like, there are other options. I want to see how this offense works. I think Judy's the most talented guy. I just don't like the volume right now. It's just not there for him. Noah Fant seems healthy. He's probably the run back for me on this game. He is their top receiver in all reality. Just seeing a ton of volume for a tight end. Definitely has big playability. So if I'm running this lineup, if I want to go completely non-contrarian, I'm running Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill with Noah Fant probably as my run back. If I want to just do like a contrarian type of a stat, then maybe I start looking to Judy or Tim Patrick along with CEH if I'm doing it with a different. Or maybe I go CEH, Noah Fant, and because it's going to be chalk this week. That's the way I'd go in this game. I'm not going heavy in this game. I think Tyreek Hill is a phenomenal one-off. He will be, if I'm doing a main stack of, let's say, Pitt and a mini stack, a different game, and I've got $6,400 left over for a one-off, he is my high upside one-off this week. His price is stupid low, and I think he's a great one-off. He could break a slate. He could put 30 points up. What are your thoughts on this game, Michael?
We still haven't seen that Tyreek, real breakout game. He should have had it 2 weeks ago, but there was a bad holding call on the Chiefs, or else Tyreek would have had his 30-point game 2 weeks ago. They took back it was like a 70-yard touchdown pass, which Mahomes laid an absolute dime to him. This game probably won't have a ton of points unless the Chiefs just go off for like 42. Which, again, I think on any slate, you just need to stack the Chiefs just because we know what they can do, even in bad matchups, if this one looks a little worse, especially, too, these AFC West games on the road, Kansas City going to Denver, these are always tougher games. The one stat that I found this week that gives me a little hope that we could see somewhat of a shootout here, as bad as Drew Lock was last week, he had an average depth of target of like over 18 yards last week. The guy has an arm and he loves to sling it. He's not very accurate, but with the way that he does sling it, if he can connect on these passes with the playmakers that he has with Judy, Fant, and even the way Hamler can, his breakaway speed, there's some potential here for this game to put some points up on the board, which would, obviously help that Kansas City offense. So, again, it's not something I'm going to be overly exposed to, but there's some potential there if Locke can make some, connections to his playmakers.
Drew Lock is sort of fearless. Like, he's going to throw. He doesn't care. And as long as the team lets him. He does not have a ton of volume. That's what pulled him off of my GPP list this week, because in his two starts, he only has 33 and 24, but they're going to have to throw in this game. And so, I like that idea. What do you think about Jacksonville and the Los Angeles Chargers?
So this game, it's not every week, but there are some weeks where I just have like that feeling, or I just tend to like a game as being a sneaky stack, and this is that game for me. I think this game is going to be a very interesting sneaky stack, and I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. We'll start on the Chargers side, and Herbert's been incredible. He's
incredible.
He's been putting up numbers, he's been making plays. I feel he's not even as talked about as like even Joe Burrow, and some plays that Herbert has made. If Burrow made them, it would be, be like, oh, it's the next coming of God. With the plays that he's made, similar like how, like Stafford made like a 6 set-on throw behind his offensive lineman last week, and was really talked about. Where if Mahomes made that kind of throw, it would have been like the play of the year. So, and I feel like Herbert's been getting that treatment that he hasn't been, talked about as much, and playing for the Chargers doesn't help the case either.
Do you think part of that has to do with Anthony Lynn saying that Herbert, there's a reason he was the backup, like him sabotaging his own quarterback? Is that part of it? Do you think that's put a negative spin on in people's mind? Because the kid's been amazing.
Yeah, he has been. It's definitely a possibility. The coach speak hasn't helped it. Maybe at the same time, maybe it's been a way to motivate Herbert to say, hey kid, we're willing to take you off the field, so you better play well, and he has been. He's been remarkable. And I think that very much can continue this week. Jacksonville has one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, so I think you're going to see a lot of people flock to Justin Jackson with his cheap value, and even potentially Josh Kelly with his cheap price tag as well. But I'm not totally sold on this backfield. I was a little high on Kelly. Kelly's disappointed a bit. I haven't been that high on Justin Jackson, and he played relatively well against New Orleans, averaging 4.7 yards a carry, and he caught a bunch of passes, but Justin Jackson just never did it for me. Now I may be totally wrong, and Jacksonville run defenses, maybe Jackson goes off and they don't need to throw a lot. But even the Chargers defense hasn't been fantastic. So I think there's some options here. And actually, out of this entire game, my favorite player this week from this game is Hunter Henry. I actually have Henry in my cash game lineup this week. I think he's honestly, I think behind Kittle and Kelsey, that Henry is probably the number 3 tight end option this week on the board, as far as what his output's going to be. So far this year against tight ends, the Jaguars have either given up 50 yards or a touchdown in 5 of their 6 games. The only game that they didn't was against the Bengals, where the Bengals tight ends went 3 for 47. And we know the Bengals don't involve the tight ends very much, but there was 5 targets, so they did have them involved in the game plan. So basically, the base for the Jaguars against tight ends has been 10 points basically every week. And if we take a look at Hunter Henry's stats this year, well, it's been 10 or more points in all but one of his games, and that was against Tampa defenses in the NFL. And same thing with Henry. Henry's gotten 50 yards or a touchdown in all but one of his games this year. So Henry's base is basically 10 points. And again, I touched on it before with how bad tight end has been this year. Getting a guy like Hunter Henry at only $4,500, where you're essentially looking, his base is going to be 10 points, giving you a little bit over 2x. All this guy is going to need, if he gets you a touchdown, well, now you're going to be at 3-4x. It's going to be a perfect cash game play. And I even think for GPPs, it could be some nice leverage there as well. And I'm very into the entire Chargers passing game, this week. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen as well. I'm actually going to have a pretty tough time when I'm stacking this game, deciding the two guys that I want to use with Herbert. So I think Allen and Williams can both have some big games here. Herbert's really brought this passing game to life, and we see Mike Williams can make a big play at the drop of a hat. He finally looked healthy against New Orleans. They had the bye week to recoup, and this guy is a big play waiting to happen. And with Keenan Allen's target volume as well, this pass game is going to be big. It's going to, I think there's going to be a big week for the Chargers offense. And and then the flip side, we got to hope that DJ Chark is healthy and he's fully back. He doesn't have an injury designation going into this week's game, and he gets targeted a ton. When he's out on that field, Minshew loves throwing him the ball. It's just that the targets haven't been very good. Minshew has not been that accurate. So if Minshew can find his accuracy this week and put up some points and lead the Jags downfield quite a bit, I think we're in shape for a sneaky shootout here. I really, really do. So I'm really looking on that Jacksonville side as my bring back, and I think you got Shenault and Chark that are some good playmakers. And surprisingly enough, again, this is a guy that I've been wrong on, that I've kind of talked down every single week. But Keelan Cole is not a bad guy to potentially use and stack the Jacksonville side, or even as a bring back. I mean, the guy's got 5 or more targets every single game this year. That's nothing to snooze at for $4,700. Where, if you've got Herbert with Mike Williams and Hunter Henry and Keelan Cole, you got 3 guys there under 5,000, and Herbert is middle of the pack in his QB pricing. You'll be able to fit in pretty much anything that you want with a game stack that I think is going to be pretty high scoring.
Yeah, Keelan Cole, I love. I mean, 5 or more targets every week, as you mentioned, and I've been mentioning that every week this year when I get the chance to. He's a perfect bring-back play for me. The thing with Keelan Cole, obviously not being a cash game option, if he scores a touchdown, he hits value. That's just how it is. He gets to just about 2x every week. Based on volume, he needs a touchdown. When he scores, he hits that value. He's hit 15 or more points, 3 of his 6 games this year. Actually had a big game last week. But DJ Chark is kind of in that Tyreek Hill mold for me. He's stupid cheap this week, $5,500. Dude had 14 targets last week, and his price went down like $800. That's dumb. So let's take advantage of that. He's a great running back in this game. I mean, as much as I like Cole, I don't know why we'd have to do it. You could run Allen, Chark, Williams, Herbert, and be just fine. Like there's no unless obviously it's a little chalky for this game, but I don't think this game's going to be heavy chalk. As you see on the screen I put up there, Herbert's been better than Burrow this year. He just has. Burrow might be putting up slightly better fantasy numbers, but he's also put up a ton more volume. Herbert has been running pretty well. Not a ton of yards, but he smart runs. Doesn't make a ton of mistakes. Gets enough volume. He makes really accurate, good throws. He's just been really fun to watch, and he's definitely not afraid to take a shot down the field. 24 or more points in 3 or 4 games, 19 or more points in all 4 of his games. I get those prices up to $6,400, but other than Kyler Murray and Joe Burrow, he's my third option at cash game quarterback this week. It's a safe play, and I think the Jaguars are terrible. Their defense is just awful. My biggest concern is that they're worse against the run. Justin Jackson, I was just reading the notes on DK. Like, Anthony Lynn is one of the dumbest coaches in the NFL, and that's saying a lot because there's a lot of dumb coaches. He practiced fully today. Will he play? We'll see. Like, dude, he's going to freaking play. And he's a late game, so we have to make decisions. Justin Jackson is incredibly cash game viable for me. I think he's taken over the lead role in the backfield. Listen, I'm a Josh Kelly guy. I've been buying up his rookie cards like crazy. I'm talking him up. I love the kid. But Justin Jackson was ahead of Josh Kelly before the season started. Jackson got hurt. Jackson is back, and he seems to have taken the role back from Kelly. Kelly's fine as a GPP option, I suppose. And if Jackson's out, Kelly to me is a slam dunk cash play if Jackson were to be inactive. But we won't know that most likely in our lock, and this is a later game, so we can't make that decision. Kelly will get you 10, 12 touches, but I think Jackson will get you close to 20 touches. I like this game, like you said. It's a sneaky game. A less sneaky game is the Seattle-Arizona game. I'm glad that it's on the slate because I would have had to change some lineups because I do have Kyler Murray as my cash game quarterback. I don't like that they left this game on the slate. I'm not planning on stacking it overly heavily, and I think a lot of people will. And that takes a little fun away from the game, being it is the legit late game hammer. This game, Seattle is another one of the teams like the Ravens where it's really easy to stack them. It's Russell Wilson, it's DK Metcalf, it's Tyler Lockett. That's your stack. If you want to have leverage on the field, you play Chris Carson with that stack instead of one of the receivers, or you just run Carson as a run back on an Arizona stack. Like, they're so easy to figure out, and that's a great thing. Now, if you have to choose between Metcalf and Lockett, that part sucks, so just play them both. Or you got to choose one, you pick Metcalf. Metcalf's the higher upside guy, you play Metcalf. Easy. For me, the reason that I'm on Arizona side of this game, particularly in cash, is Kyler Murray is doing a lot of what Lamar Jackson did last year. I ran the numbers. Kyler Murray is giving you the same kind of production you're getting from a mid 5K running back just from his running game. He's giving you the same production David Johnson's giving you this year. Now, I know we don't love David Johnson, but if you could get a mid-level quarterback, if you get like a Gardner Minshew or a Sam Darnold plus the work from David Johnson, you would take that as for one price for $7,000. You would take that because that's $13,000 worth of cost to get those guys, and you're $12,000. You're getting for $7K. $7,100 is wrong. It's just the wrong price for Kyler Murray to be a quarterback. I don't know how he scored 29 points last week against Dallas with only 9 completions, and DK said, "Nah, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna lower his price by $600 against the worst pass defense in football." No team has been more generous to the opposing quarterback than the Seattle Seahawks. Great. So maybe Kyler Murray has a ceiling passing game, maybe not 180 yards ceiling, but maybe 270 and 2 touchdowns. Like, he threw 3 picks against Detroit and still put up 20 points. I don't 25 points to be where Kyler Murray ends, but if that's the floor, if that's where we're at, I'm happy with that. But if he puts up 270 and 2, and he gives me, 6 for 78 on the ground, that's pretty awesome. I'll take that. And I think that's really in play with this game. Even if he doesn't score a touchdown on the ground, I think that's in play. He has rushed for, 60 or more yards in 4 of his 6 games. He hasn't gone below 29. He has 5 rushes at least per game. He has scored a rushing touch all but 1 game this year. But in this matchup, I think it could be. I do think that the backfield make him run around a bit. That will leave some open wide receivers, but he's also going to get the rushing yards as well. I think he's a great play. DeAndre Hopkins is banged up. He is supposedly going to play, but that also would lead some credence to the fact that they're going to try to run him around a little bit more. With Murray, Christian Kirk, he had a big game Monday night. I wouldn't call it a breakout game. If I'm not mistaken, he only had 2 catches. One of them was a big bomb for a touchdown, and he had the other short touchdown. So 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. That's not sustainable. But what he did against the Jets is, if he goes 5 for 78 with 1 touch, it's 18 points. Awesome. I'll take the Christian Kirk. He's a really nice stacking option, especially if Hopkins plays but is a little banged up. You take Kirk because Kirk is great in the open field. If you watched him at Texas A&M, he was a punt returner as well as a receiver, and when he got the ball in the open field, he could do things. And so maybe with Kyler Murray running around and DeAndre Hopkins a little banged up and a little attention to the running game because Kenyon Drake had 1 good game against a really garbage rush defense. People are going to be worried about that. Maybe Christian Kirk gets some opportunity in the open field, and maybe he's a really decent play. He, to me, is a perfect run back if you're stacking Seattle. But even if you're stacking Arizona, he's a guy that I'm looking at. Kenyon Drake is, again, I've said this phrase a lot, and I'm going to say it. He's stupidly priced. I don't think Kenyon Drake's a good player. I don't think he's a superstar value or superstar upside. He had a great game last week, but Kenyon Drake kind of is what he is. He's not catching passes. He's going to get you 16 to 18 carries. If he scores, he's going to hit value at 15 points. If you go 70 yards and a touchdown, maybe he catches one pass for 10 yards, you got your 15 points, you hit value. He's got the upside, sure, what he did against Dallas. Probably not going to happen here. I'm not playing him in cash. That's really the point I'm making. I just don't see. I think some people might consider him in cash, and quite honestly, with Paul Williams' value potentially opening up and Gio value opening up, I think it's going to lower the cash game and the overall playability of Drake, which makes him a GPP viable option as a run back to a Seattle stack. But I'm not going heavy on Kenyon Drake. I just think that game was an anomaly more than anything. I think he's kind of a sucker play, especially for cash. Again, a little bit of GP upside, but I'm not in love. Mike, what do you think about this game?
So I'll touch on Drake real fast since that was your last point there. Yeah. He is an interesting GPP play. Also from the standpoint of the Seattle run defense is allowing 2.94 yards before contact, which is dead last in the NFL.
It's pretty bad.
And so I mean, listen, if that trend continues and Drake is getting 3 yards before he's even touched, there could be a big game. But again, he was pedestrian last week. Before that, he broke off that big run. So it's Drake's more of a leverage play, as is Carson. And I think your biggest leverage play here is going to be the Cardinals defense. The Cardinals defense.
Wrote them up.
Yeah, they've gotten 3 sacks in 5 of their 6 games this year, and they forced a turnover in 3 of their 6 games. And also, too, Russell Wilson has actually thrown an interception in 3 of his 5 games this year. So there's definitely a path to success here for the Cardinals defense. And quite frankly, at only $2,300, if they have 0 or negative points, it doesn't kill you because defenses don't tend to score all that much. So not getting any production from them doesn't matter. And we've seen in the past where defenses give up 35 points and they still can put up 4 or 5, even 6 points if they force a turnover or they take one, a kickoff or a pick 6, to the house, and they're getting 2 or 3 sacks. The Cardinals can give up 35 points and still give you 5 or 6 points as a fantasy defense. So I think they're a very strong consideration both for cash and for your GPP lineups.
Yeah, I wrote them up. I wish I'd spoken about them because you're absolutely right. You see this page in front of you, folks? All these defenses over 29. Here, I'll keep going. You see all these teams right here, folks? You don't need them. You don't need them. Look, defenses aren't going to score you more than 3, 4, 5 points a week. They hit a touchdown, they're going to score 10, 12. They get a shutout. Sure. Dolphins were a great defense last week. We loved them. But I'm spending $4,700 on the Bills this week. Are you out of your freaking mind? There's no way. I'm not spending up on the Bills, especially with Darnold coming back. We're not spending up. I love this Cardinals defense. Wrote them up. They were 4 more points in all but 2 games this year. Washington defense, great. You know what? Use the freaking Jets defense at $2,000. Josh Allen has played poorly the last 2 games. I know we like his upside, but he's played the last 2 games. He fumbles quite a bit. Week 1 against the Jets, they scored 27 points. The Bills did. Jets defense gave up 400 yards, still had some fantasy points. Still gave you 3.5x, 3 sacks, 2 turnovers. Jets defense, by the way, isn't awful. They give up some yards, but they've scored, 2 or more points in all but 1 game this year, 4 more in all but 2 games. Stop spending up on defense. Don't spend more than $2,500, $2,600. I get last week $2,900 for the Dolphins was probably worth it. Bless you.
Nice.
Sneezing on the truth, my friend. You were right there with it. Don't spend up on defense. Play the Raiders. Seriously, play any of them. Try to pick the better ones, okay? The Jets, the Cardinals, the Washington football team are probably your best options, $2,500 or less. Don't spend up on defense. Use that money for real players who do real things. For fantasy, defensive players are real players. We love you, defensive players. We love what you guys do. But the fantasy community has not been nice to you guys, so why are we spending up on you? All right, folks, that's where we're at for this week. Mike, do you have a cash core? I forgot we have to talk about. Do you have a cash core for today? I totally forgot to I have it, but I totally forgot to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, I do. So
what do you got?
So right now I'm looking at Kyler, I'm looking at Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, and Hunter Henry.
All right, that's a nice cash core. I got 2 of those 4 guys. I've got I actually only have 3 in my cash core this week because I just don't think I'm not personally locking in on the 4th yet. It's a little early for me. But McLaurin, Murray, and then, of course, Alvin Kamara, who I spoke about at the very top of the show, is my other lock-in cash core. We can fit them, so let's use them. That's going to wrap it up for this week's show, folks. Thank you for coming to listen and joining and doing whatever it is that we do. This is Bankfest. This is the Bankster DFS Week 7 Will This Even Matter Kickoff by Kickoff podcast. I am Doug Bankster Shane at Bankster17, Michael Goodadero at The Big Gooda. You can find us on YouTube. Just look for me, Doug Shane. Please like, share, subscribe, click the notification icon to let us know, or to let you know, when we go live. We go live Friday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday mornings we take you up to lock at 11:30 for about an hour and 15 minutes. And if you want to get all of our content for all the sports we cover every major sport, every niche sport, every minor sport, all the big ones, college ones, tennis, EuroLeague, golf, MMA, NASCAR, all of it. We do it all. Soccer. You can come find us, banksterdfs.com, add the /subscribe. $3.99 a week gets you all of our content for everything we do, player pools, articles, the best Slack chat in the business. I'm telling you, that's where the money is. We do so much good in that Slack chat, and we're there pretty much 24/7. Someone's always saying something in the Slack chat. We have some funky rooms in there like WWE, betting, Traeger, movies. We cover a lot of fun things on top of the sports. It's a community. Come check us out. If you have any questions, again, come hit me up on Twitter at Bankster17, and we will see you Sunday morning, 11:30 Eastern. Have a great weekend. Until then, later.